So, hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the Woke Cyberman podcast. Today, we're going to talk about Southeast Asia. It's been a while since we've done this for various reasons, but one of which is our book, which you see here. Talk about that a bit more later, but we've been kind of promoting it by traveling a little bit around the Southeast Asian region. So that's the book. We can write down there where you can get it and stuff, but we'll talk more about that later. So we've been traveling quite a bit. That's why we haven't done this for a while.
Yep.
And I was also quite surprised that when we go to a lot... Okay, you can stop doing this now.
All right, I'll
yeah,
stop.
thank you for having done that, but
I tried.
it's been done enough.
Okay.
Yeah, put back on the stand. Advertising.
Why not just put here?
Can also.
All right.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we've not been around doing this is because we've been traveling to promote the book. Then Remy himself also has been doing a bit more traveling around Southeast
Finding
Asia.
myself.
Finding yourself.
Finding things.
Right.
And
Like toads and snails.
animals and fun
things
facts.
that you're likely to find when I hang out with you. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Then I was also quite enthused or excited to hear that whenever we go a lot of these places, people ask us, hey, why the podcast never do?
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why we haven't done for a while was also I was feeling a bit out of funk. I was a bit burnt out from doing it. And I didn't know that people watch it.
Actually, the videos that you did on your own did really well, right? Like the 10K
I think some
one.
of them did okay lah. Yeah. But I think my expectation of it is a bit off lah. I think this kind of video we should make for a long-term plan thing. We shouldn't expect it to do 100K immediately. So I think I was also a bit burnt out from sharing too much lah.
But the view is good, what?
I think okay lah. Yeah, okay.
Let me see how much is it. Hang on,
Yeah.
65K view, not bad one.
Yeah, it's pretty good lah.
We got how many follow only?
Yeah.
It's more than our follow count.
So thank you if you've been asking us about the podcast. Right? It really helped in giving us the confidence to do this again. So I think today we just want to start talking to each other again because it's always
Yes.
nice to talk to you, Remy.
Thank you.
And then
nice
then
talking
we
to
talk
you,
about Southeast Asia lah, right?
Sure.
So maybe we start talking first about we've been to two places together for the book so far, KL and Jakarta.
Yeah.
Were there any revelations for you when we went to any of these places?
I think not revelations per se, because I've been to these two places quite often.
Oh, okay.
But I think one thing I noticed is that the state of development seems to have picked up, in the last 5 years.
So you're saying in Jakarta, they seem to have developed a lot lah.
Yeah. They become more developed. People are a lot more businesses are starting. You can see they took on e-payments quite quickly.
Oh yes.
You know, stuff that you always think that as Singaporeans you have a monopoly of over Southeast Asia. Then when you go and see oh shit, they have this too.
Not just they have it at a more ingrained level than we do culturally, right?
Yeah.
It's so I remember going to, maybe it's just some of the malls that we went to. So in Jakarta, if you want to pay cash, they give you a look, right? Don't waste my time.
Yeah. So it started off with China first.
Yeah,
I think
China,
10 years ago, China already like that already. You want to pay cash,
yes.
people,
Yeah.
So must be a tourist.
Yeah.
Then now it's starting to become Southeast Asia as well. But I think in general, some aspects of Jakarta and both KL made me appreciate aspects of Singapore living as well. The traffic, air quality.
Yeah, the traffic, yeah. Especially I think in Jakarta, I thought the traffic was a bit... Actually, KL was also quite bad. In the central KL, it was so jammed at certain points.
I mean, it's not that the traffic is bad. I guess just Singapore with ERP and expensive cars, we've kind of eliminated that. Yeah. Right, but I mean, not to say KL or Jakarta are not amazing places, but I do think because of economic development, they became affluent very quickly. Everyone have a lot of cars, and then it's not regulated.
Yes.
So cities and cars, congestion, too many things.
I did appreciate that about Jakarta in a weird way.
Yeah.
When I was there, I noticed when we were all there together, I noticed the sunset always quite beautiful because it has that orange yolk sun that goes down. And actually that's just the pollution.
Oh yeah, because the air quality is bad.
Yeah, it makes it look quite scenic for me. And I realized maybe it could be the season of time that we went to Jakarta. So I remember coming back from that trip, back to Singapore. And I'm like, blue sky. I actually haven't seen that for the past week. I didn't see that in Jakarta at all. There was not a moment where I saw that in Jakarta. And I guess also in that way, even though I like driving cars and I wish I could drive it in Singapore because it's very expensive here, I also appreciate that there's some control in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, those not so good things aside, right? I mean, just like the level of development, like the malls that you see in Jakarta, nowadays, like I think like
catch up already,
it's maybe even more vibrant than Singapore in some ways. I guess in Singapore we have like the same CapitaLand Mall repeated again and again and again and again and again.
Right.
But then I guess in Jakarta they have that too, and then they also have like the local offerings. So it was pretty interesting.
I remember KL also actually. When we went to the malls in KL, we stayed at this place called Fahrenheit 88, just behind it. And our hostel was not say very nice or what. It's okay lah, right? But that street alone, the malls are some of them like quite swanky one, like the brands that it's a bit like Orchard Road, even, you know. But the jam along that road was crazy lah. I think like our friend was telling us it's a stretch of road that this company called YTL owns. And then she was telling us that the underground connection is all actually owned by YTL.
Yeah, so our friend came to pick us up in the center of KL, Bukit Bintang. Right. If she had walked, it would have been like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But then because we drove, it took like 1 hour.
Yeah, literally, you know, it's not even a stretch of the imagination. And another thing that I noticed was like, that I was kind of like, I missed when I came back to Singapore. Actually, it was public transport. Like, to not say that it's better or worse, it's just different. Like, I remember when we went to Jakarta, they had just finished, not just, I think it's quite recent lah. Like, they had built a MRT line. And it's not bad one, you know, like, it's pretty good.
It's so modern.
Yeah, but only one line.
Yeah.
In Singapore, the coverage is just so much more extensive in terms of the train. And then I remember we were in KL, and then there was this like along that stretch of road that we were staying in, which is actually like Orchard Road. It's so central and so like bustling with activity. We saw this thing called what, KL City Bus or something. It's like a free service lah. And I looked up the routes later. It's actually pretty okay, right? It goes to a lot of the cool places in KL you might want to go. But the jam is so bad. There's no dedicated bus lane like in Singapore. Because in Singapore, you got this like bus lane, like half-day bus lane, full-day bus lane. So even if you build a good like public transport offering, if the infrastructure is not there in terms of like, or legislation in terms of like, or let's cordon off this road so that if any car drive on it, they get fined. The whole point of the bus also is rendered like moot, right? There's no point. Because I might as well walk or drive myself. So there are a lot of these like things that I think I had taken for granted that traveling regionally recently has made me go, wow, shit.
So also fun fact, you know, there's this video floating around about the debate to have an MRT system in Singapore. Have you seen that?
But Singapore got MRT system.
Last time.
Oh, last time.
This is like ancient, not ancient lah, maybe like 19...
Also, it's old footage of news last time.
And they're just talking about like the sheer cost of building MRT.
On the taxpayers.
Yeah, on the country itself, like, which is taxpayers. So it also made me appreciate like, oh, actually, Singapore is just... Sometimes we're just lucky. We're just born at the right time. We were wealthy enough to build like a MRT system.
Right.
And then somehow like, in this era, we continue to expand it, like it works. There's buy-in from the public. For a lot of like our neighbors, right, for the longest time, they were not wealthy enough to build MRT system. And then now that they are wealthy enough, like there's a lot of resistance because people are already used to cars, used to motorcycles. And that can make it challenging.
Infrastructure also, because they would have designed cities and roads in a certain way that would benefit cars and certain types of buildings.
Yeah.
There was an interesting point I remember that you said about MRT also, like that. Because you used the word lucky, which I gave me a bit of pause, but I think you're also saying like in terms of timing, like the technology was there, the cost was just about right, and also Singapore had no legacy railway system to kind of like rub against off and like kind of like compete with, right? Like, so if for example, I remember going to New York City, I know a bit far away in terms of comparison, but New York City is it's literally the other side of the planet, right? New York City is famous for these like actually quite photogenic, these vents that would shoot up these like white gases, you know? And that is steam. So this is a very old system that has been used to warm and power the city. And you would think New York City as like the center of the planet kind of thing, kind of culture, like you would have the newest and latest things, but actually not necessarily the case, right? Because to tear that old system down would be so much trouble. You have to reconfigure a lot of things. Some of the buildings and the way they were
like
built.
the downtime needed, right?
Yeah.
So which is why sometimes when you go to like European countries or even the US, the subway system is nothing compared to like let's say Japan or Singapore. But for that time that they first existed, they were amazing.
It was the best shit, right, at the time.
And then also they had like the foresight to build that, like let's say I don't know, 90 years ago. That is pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, it's good. It really is foresight because also we think about the length of a term. You got to think about like political terms and how long they last. Like usually 4 years, and to start a project that will expand across that, basically like a lot of times means that you have to basically do things that people are not happy with and don't like. In the meantime, for a even further greater good. So a lot of times, especially if your political system is a bit more unstable, like why would I go and take on this initial, how to say, like loss of voter favor to do something that might not even benefit my term because next term might not be me already, you know?
Yeah, so I'm also not sure like with nowadays like democracies around the world, right? Like a lot of them are very fragmented. Whether or not they will have like the political will for such large level infrastructure projects again.
Yeah, and of course I think, it became a bit more political, but I think maybe I turn out of this after this, like, but sometimes I feel like maybe the term should be longer, like it should be like 8 years, but then democracy, you need to let people have their say, and somehow we've decided that every 4 years is a good length of time, you know. But the fact is that societal and infrastructure stuff oftentimes is longer than 4 years. Then how do you do that?
Of course.
That's tough, right? Yeah. But coming back to like transport, I also like, I remember in KL we walked to a mall to watch a movie. You remember that?
What mall is that? It's a new one. No, it's not the...
Aeon or something?
It's not the walkie-talkie. No, Aeon's everywhere.
It's quite a swanky
TRX.
one. TRX, yes. And then in Singapore, I think we're just so like spoiled because like if you see something on the map or even in the distance, chances are if you just roughly walk towards it, you'll find a way pedestrian-wise. But in Malaysia, is not the case at all. Like the walkways are not so clear. Sometimes we would be able to cross a road, then just like literally 15 meters down there, there's also an overhead bridge crossing. Like a lot of these are overlapping infrastructure things. So, and it's also hot also because the foliage and the amount of covering and shelter that is planted around the city is really not very comprehensive. So some parts are just concrete, and black tar roads, and it's just, it made a hot day even hotter. You know? When we got there, I think we looked so like, we went to watch a movie, and it was quite a atas theatre, like a very swanky one, and turned out only 2 of us watching because it was afternoon thing.
I think also it was a bad movie.
Yeah, it was a crappy movie, but it was very fun because it's just us 2 in the cinema. We literally yelling shit at the screen because just 2 of us, and it was a great time, but it was a shitty movie. But when we went there, we just like drenched in sweat, and then like Riming had sunscreen that was like literally like white color coming down.
Dripping into my eyes.
Yeah, dripping into his eyes.
I think got two things I want to add to that. I think like a lot of countries around the world lack like for example, Singapore has this like Land Acquisition Act, where the government like can kind of like bulldoze like private intentions to kind of have it their way. So I think we should also recognize like the political cost of having like
for sure.
Of well-planned city. Like
it requires a heavy hand in some ways.
You have to do some unpopular things also.
But the alternative also can be quite bad because we see like how, for example, in Los Angeles, like it's like literally like the rich live very well and the homeowner associations are so powerful that they can veto whatever the government says because they can vote, you know. And then you just get selfishness and money that will win more.
The other point I wanted to add is that city planning is a long-term thing. Sometimes, I mean, I listened to this CNA podcast, I think with Liu Taiker, which was like one of Singapore's like urban planning greats. He mentioned like city planning is not just an art, it's actually a science, right? Like a lot of it requires like long-term thinking. You cannot anyhow mix and match, which is why sometimes I hear like people say, oh, why not build more HDB flats in the country club, right?
Or just tear down the golf club and then build a HDB.
Yeah, but then like they never consider the other things, like will people even live there? Is it convenient?
Usually this golf club very ulu anyway, right?
Yeah. Is there integration with the rail lines? Will people actually have public transport options?
Right.
So all these things must be considered holistically, and that made me have like quite a big appreciation for urban planning.
Yeah. So when we go and see all these other places that are not Singapore, it's not like we also say they should just be like Singapore. Like I think one way to also zoom out even more is to go, well, they're probably facing these kind of difficulties, and oftentimes, like you say, Singapore lucky because Singapore is kind of young.
Yeah, Singapore is so lucky. Yeah.
So you want to undo all these things. It's not just legislature and infrastructure. It's also culture. What do people on the ground feel about it? Are they even with you on that? You know. And it's oftentimes very hard to get people on the ground to think long term and act long term.
And also, some countries like have been devastated by war. I mean, for example, I lived in Hanoi for a month.
Oh yeah,
I think from
yeah,
like March
yeah.
to April.
Yes.
I mean, the development is also very fast there. I lived like in Hanoi for a month, just exploring, I also went on a cycling trip.
Exploring yourself.
Yeah, exploring myself, finding food. The amazing thing about Vietnam is like the growth story that has happened since like in the 1980s. So 1980s, like Vietnam is one of like the poorest nations in the world because after the Vietnam War, they tried like communism for a little bit, didn't work out. In the 1980s, they tried this thing called like, I don't know if I'm saying it right, it's called Doi Moi or something.
Okay.
It means like
Doi Moi.
Reformation or like basically like redo like.
Are they still communist now?
Communist in name, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but then after that, they became one of like Southeast Asia's miracle economies. I think like Singaporeans still have this like very this image of like Vietnam very backward, very rundown. And I
Is
think
it like that?
when you visit, like let's say the old parts of Vietnam, like it does seem like that. But recently, I also, I mean, when I was there, I visited like the new Vietnam. Wow, and it looked so modern that I was kind of like shook for a moment because it like completely changed my perception of what Vietnam is. Because when you only go to a touristy area, you only see like the heritage things. So I guess this is the equivalent of someone going to, let's say, Clarke Quay, and imagine like the rest of Singapore. It's like that,
right.
but in fact it's not. Yeah, I think maybe like it's slow a little bit but for maybe like 10-15 years, it was probably the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia. And like during COVID, many people saw like Vietnam as like a China +1 strategy. A lot of manufacturing places were in China. Then they also want like another place to diversify because China they had like the complete lockdown thing. So they diversified to Vietnam as well.
So that was like their opportunity. They took that.
Yeah,
and then it's closer to Singapore also, right?
Yeah, so they also took that. But there's also a movement right now of like, at least in Vietnam, I can't speak for the other countries, of like people have been educated abroad. They move back into Vietnam. They start businesses. They apply the lessons that they learned in the US. So that actually now there are a lot of startups, businesses.
I've heard that the coding scene there is very vibrant and very good talent there in terms of coding.
I was speaking to like my friend. I think most of her tech team is
just in Vietnam now lah.
Yes, in Vietnam. I mean, it's a Singapore company lah.
Yeah. Interesting. So would you be open to say like moving anywhere in Southeast Asia next time, like in considering what we are going through now, and also because Singapore currency is still quite strong now compared to our neighbors. So I have been personally thinking of it. So for me, obviously, because I'm from Malaysia, I'm just thinking Malaysia, like culturally similar, geographically close,
of course.
So I'm also thinking, maybe next time I can consider, if I can persuade my wife, maybe have a retire in Malaysia instead kind of thing.
I think honestly, Malaysia is the most logical choice, right? We already speak some of the languages there, right?
Got land.
Use the same apps.
Yeah, use the same apps,
I recently saw like a cool retirement home in Malaysia. I was considering, next time, let's just say like cost of living gets really,
the one you
really
just sent
high.
me.
It's called Millennial Village.
Millennial Village, not Millennial Village.
Not sponsored content, by the way.
Not at all.
That I would move there. Then I bring my parents there also. Then after that, we could have like a pretty decent life there. So I think Malaysia is definitely on the cards. As far as places, I mean like Vietnam, Thailand,
Indonesia.
Indonesia. I'm not so sure. I mean, it will require me to put in more effort right? Like either learn the language,
immerse yourself in the culture.
But I mean, before we say like paint like an overly bright picture of the ASEAN countries.
Yes.
I think one big problem they have to solve is like the livability of these cities also. So I mean, I was in Hanoi and Man. Food was good. People were friendly, talented. One thing that I couldn't get past was actually air quality, right? Air quality.
You just get used to it?
I mean, so I can get used to it as a tourist, right? But if you live long term,
it might have health effects as well.
Probably you have health effects. So I do think in the future you also have to see whether like these countries are taking steps to kind of fix
go car light or something
the livability
right?
And also that depends on its ability to kind of raise funds from its citizens,
make long-term decisions like public transport, build MRT or train line, things like that, right?
So I do think like there's a lot of potential in these countries, but of course the future is a big unknown at the moment.
Yeah, I'm also thinking Malaysia quite strongly now because I mean I'm from there. So like we were just talking about what would be some of the things that we might do after work ceremony. Like one of the sectors that I would love to go into is like how to say like senior citizen or old age like
old age care.
Retirement, but not like old folks home where you have a caretaker kind of thing. It's more like you are mobile and you can do some stuff. So like if we could get a piece of land cheap but it's in a nice place, we could build it up so that it could be like a little retirement camp kind of thing. Because I think my dad went for one and he quite liked it. It's just like a lodge kind of thing where they each have their own little rooms to go to at the end of the day, but they come together in the day to do things like I'll go and do barbecue, fishing, we go camping outside, that kind of thing. So like a bit closer to nature, like a retreat kind of thing, but for old people that are still mobile. Because now aging population, actually people living longer but also living better as older people, very active, you know.
Exactly.
Like if you play badminton at public places, you probably can find some uncles that will kick your ass, you know. So it's quite viable, I feel, and it'll be fun to do, you know. Yeah.
I don't know whether fun to do, like I mean,
or to operate, right? That would be another thing, right?
It would be a headache. But I think the idea of like helping people to live well would be would be pretty cool,
Yeah.
But I guess you we will need to learn the business, consider like the land rights.
Yeah. What's the business model? Do you pay lump sum? Do you do a subscription thing?
So actually, I had this idea before, right? So people pay a lump sum to us, then we'll provide them with lifetime care, right? And then when they die, we give the money back.
Then what do you earn?
So during the time that they
you just deduct from the amount.
No, we invest.
Oh, so we use their money to invest and then we earn the extra that we earn from there.
Exactly.
But they get the capital back after they pass on. It goes to their whoever they want to give to.
So that's one idea I thought of.
Oh, interesting model. Because you are taking the worry out of will I have enough to live here forever? We just say have.
Yeah.
And if we lose money via the investment ourselves, then you still get to stay.
I guess, exactly. Right? Yeah, but the challenge is like, let's say with cost of living and then let's say there's another like supply short.
Yes.
That we will need to provide like the same level of goods.
Yes.
To justify.
That is promised.
But then like we will kind of like be legal guardians of their money. Until they pass away. So
and in a way you can invest differently because old people there's some limitations in what they should be investing in terms of risk and stuff. But because we have a longer horizon.
So you avoid like the chance of you being scammed.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say if you put like maybe full retirement sum with us, around 300k. No, not full. Enhanced retirement sum.
Yeah.
The other we can give you like let's say $2,000 worth of like goods and services every month. Like the whole package, like housing, food, activities.
Yeah.
But because we are an organization, right? There's like economies of scale. You can get a bulk discount on the things that you require. So for example, let's say you are a single person, then you need one caregiver, right? There's some downtime for the caregivers.
Yeah.
I mean,
you could share that caregiver
you could
whenever
share
people need it. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it could work, but needs more research.
Yeah. And governments might not be happy. I say governments because we don't know where this is. Governments might not be happy with the idea that you take people's money like that, instead of making it safer and stuff.
I don't see it that way because, I mean, there's this saying like when government struggles to do a job. The exact saying is like when government fails, businesses step in.
Right.
And I do think like it can be hard for a lot of governments to transit into aging society.
Yeah,
there are a lot of difficulties.
Because governments also are not just managing aging society, they're managing
the youth also.
Everybody, yeah.
So I can imagine a scenario, let's say you are in a very expensive city-state, right?
Yeah.
Then after that...
Naming no names.
Yeah, naming no names. Then after that, now the burden of healthcare is very high, right? If you can reduce that, if you can find a way for the seniors to have good retirement, healthy lives, then they live out longer also, right? And then they won't need so much public support.
Yeah, that's good also.
I think it's a win-win. It's not necessarily like a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
I mean, provided we never take the money and run away.
Of course not.
That is a bad idea.
Yeah.
If you run away...
No, that's not the kind of money I want to make.
Yeah.
I'd rather lose it all and start all over again,
Yes. Yeah. Start all over again.
That's not a reference to anything. We just like to say it like that.
Yeah. okay, or you think about it this way. Let's say you put your money in CPF Life, then you get the enhanced plan. So every month you have like 2K, 3K plus. Then you subscription based. You pay the nursing home. Not nursing home. Let's call it the adult recreational facility. The RAF, right? Okay, then you pay the RAF. You either do like the lump sum model or you do the subscription model.
Yeah.
But I guess because you do the lump sum model, let's say you pay 300K in the beginning, then it will be slightly cheaper because you pay upfront.
Right. So you can choose, right? Yeah. Or you can try it first.
Who knows? I mean,
try subscription first, see you like the place, no, you like it, then let's commit to this.
Of course, right now we just say only.
Yeah, say only.
Later, like in 10 years, we
maybe have already. Maybe people also kind of doing this already.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add in terms of like Southeast Asia stuff? And I think that's about it, actually. We also don't want to make too long, I guess.
Okay.
You got things you want us to talk about, you all can say, because we're trying to, I guess, revive us talking again.
Kind of thing. Talk about a cool book I read recently.
Oh, is it? You want to take?
I can
go and take it.
Oh, fuck.
No, I'll take it.
He's going to take it from me.
Just here.
Thanks. So this is a cool book like I read recently. It's called Public Subsidy, Private Accumulation, the Political Economy of Singapore's Public Housing.
Suddenly you become book club. But I think good.
Yeah,
Big it up. Why do you like this book?
I think it's a not bad read. I think for the longest time, I already like instinctively know like Singapore's dilemma with public housing, like why we struggle to have affordable public housing for youth these days. And I think this book gave like a pretty good explanation of how we got here. So I mean to briefly sum it up, I think nowadays there's people find housing unaffordable, correct? But then also the government cannot make HDB flats too affordable, at least on the resale market.
Because the old people that own it will be like, hey, last time I buy this price, now you force me to sell at this price, my capital never appreciate.
Yeah, because they depend on it for their retirement. Because as a result of using their CPF to be able to pay.
They're not investing to beat inflation, right?
Exactly. So they depend on the house instead. So I think this book kind of gives like a good overview on why that happened. There are some parts I disagree, but overall I thought it was a pretty good read.
A bit complex, I think. Like for me also, because I'm not very knowledgeable about this kind of real estate stuff, but the clearest way that it was explained to me that I understood was, I remember was telling me, is like there's two forces at play here. One is like young people want housing to be affordable, but if it's not a newly built BTO, which is like limited supply, right? What do? You have to buy resale. Who is selling resale? The parents of young people who understandably would like the price to go up. So on the one hand, in the same household, you could have it both ways, where the parents wanted to go up and the kids wanted to come down. Then that is the problem, right? So I think the book.
So I mean, the book says that the Singapore government is caught in this like never-ending cycle, right? They provide subsidies for new homeowners, then the resellers price in these subsidies in their existing when they sell a house, leading to like and
it's one of the hardest things to solve, and we see it all over the world. Actually, it just manifests in different ways because I think Singapore uniquely has a land scarcity issue. So this is so central to life, and home ownership and things like that.
But of course, like the Singapore one has some political elements to it also.
Right, for sure.
Because it's public housing.
Yes.
And even though public housing is very affordable compared to... Okay, no. Public housing is very affordable to private housing here and also like around the world. That it does come with some quirks. So basically to kind of enter the system, you kind of like need to follow like the government's agenda, which is a lot of it is to start a nuclear family, to reproduce for the nation. All of it quite fair, but I mean if you don't fall within like the parameters,
which is very narrow because of some like
because of what Singapore is.
Land scarcity, blah blah blah, right?
Land scarcity, you need to make more babies. You need to increase the population.
Amount of natural resources, right?
So I just thought it was pretty good.
That's cool.
I just want to plug it.
I also like spontaneously have a book recommendation. So this is a book that was recommended to me by our intern Sandy actually, and she brought this in. It's called Blue Period, and it's very interesting because like it's actually about a person who is the main character is somebody who very handsome. Then he also is very good at his studies, and he basically could go anywhere for university, but he somehow accidentally stumbles into art, and it completely changes his life. Like, it gives him a new zest for life and things like that. But the way in which this book kind of like goes into the classic like anime journey of like, oh, I find out about this thing, I'll get better at it, then I try to be better. It's so interesting because it's something that I actually just was doing since I was like a young person, but I never thought it could be a compelling anime story like that. And it's very compelling. And one of the strongest scenes for me was there was a part where he's trying to tell his mum about the fact that he wanted to go to study art. And the art university very expensive. And I think the prevailing thought of art can earn money, man, is also very present, even in Japan, you know. And then what he does to kind of convince her was that he did a drawing of her cooking. And he was telling her that, actually, Mom, I'm so sorry that I've been a bad son because I didn't know that you do so much. But in drawing, right, when you draw something, you are studying it and you truly understand it. For example, if you just try to draw a water bottle, just go and draw a water bottle, you'll find out that it's actually, you kind of have a notion of a water bottle in your head, but until you draw it, you don't realize that there's so many aspects to the design of it, the way it curves, the little lid thing, the seal to break and things like that. So through drawing his mum, he understood it. And in him communicating this understanding to his mum, he said like, oh, when I draw your hands, I noticed got a lot of calluses, and I noticed the muscles in your wrist because you lift heavy things. I'm so sorry that I never noticed this as a son. And then through that, I think she didn't say it like classic Asian kind of thing. She does kind of say it, but not too blatantly. She's like, okay, I understand why now this thing is so important for you and why this thing actually might be good for you. So I highly recommend it. It's very, very, very thoughtful and very well drawn also.
Yeah, I realized we never plug our own book.
Yeah, so now we plug our own book. So like I was saying at the beginning, one of the reasons why we've been not around to do the podcast, we're traveling a lot. Sometimes we travel as a company, sometimes it's just two of us, sometimes Viv comes with us. So this is our new book called The Woke Salaryman, Crash Course on Capitalism and Money, and it's lessons from the world's most expensive city. Technically, we're not, right? Technically, Singapore is not the world's most expensive city.
I mean,
depends how you slice it, right?
I mean, if you want to slice it like the economist way, it is the more expensive city for expats.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then if you count it like, you know, not the expat way, I think we're okay lah.
Yeah,
but if you think about it, right?
I mean, it's a bit clickbaity lah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you say like lessons from the world's 24th most expensive
nobody buy it.
Nobody will buy it, right? So okay, fine. You know, I took some creative licensing.
Yeah, it's a little bit of clickbait, right? But I think it's justified in saying so.
I think what it is like a compilation of our existing stuff. Thank you for all of you who bought the book. I think we are at 10,000 copies sold now.
Almost like, yeah.
No, we're 10,000 already.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can be officially bestsellers. Which is not bad.
Yeah. It's cool lah.
But I think I want to address like one criticism people have of the book.
Yeah.
Which is like a lot of it is like pre-existing stories.
It is all pre-existing stories.
Yeah.
Some are remastered stuff that we had cleaned up and then did new artwork for, but all this is been published online before. Yeah.
So I think we don't want people to buy it also, and then they write like a long ass complaint.
Things, you know.
They want new stuff, which I understand also. But also we chose to republish old content because one, we think it's still useful, and number two, sometimes when you read like our stuff online, right, you always see like, okay, social media algorithms only make you see like certain stuff at certain times. So for example, you might see stuff like why we always talk about self-improvement, we never acknowledge, you know, like the greater universe at play, like structural issues, like stuff like structural inequality. How come we don't acknowledge that? So over time, some people might have the wrong impression of what our page is.
And what our stance is as a whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because our stories have to be shot for social media format. So we will say our stance, but if you put the whole thing together, you might realize that our stance is actually more neutral than it comes across in that one story.
Because sometimes you see like, Woke Salaryman kind of like say, you must only improve yourself.
Yeah.
Then
you miss out the story that we actually talk about how structure can be very limiting.
Like how your bad boss can affect you, right?
Yeah. So this book, I think, what Remy was saying is that it puts it together in one
capsule, right?
One capsule.
Which is the beautiful thing about what a book does.
Yeah. This is our way of seeing the world and how we see it. You might disagree with it and we welcome it. But I think at least understand that, you know, necessarily so what we put on social media that you come across based on algorithms might not necessarily reflect like the true wholeness of our stance. Yeah.
I guess also another complaint is like people always complain like the font is too small.
Oh yeah, on the online
so now,
especially Instagram.
So now it's damn big.
Yeah, it's big because one page is one panel
Yeah.
So it's quite a fast read Like
some people read within 2 to 3 days. Some people like it, some people don't like it.
My nephew read the whole book in one day, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it because you were there and like you better read my fucking book?
I just tell him got my book, then he went through it in a whole day.
Oh.
So I think like people will be telling us that they read it to their kids also, which I'm like, huh? So we didn't design it for that purpose, but I think because it's a lot of pictures also.
Actually, it's like really serious reading for a kid.
It's quite serious, but I think it makes it a bit more accessible. So if that's something of interest to you, you can try also. I can't guarantee that like a 9-year-old might be able to enjoy this. But, you know.
Another thing I would like to address the book is like it is not stuff that will teach you how to like get rich quickly or like what is a REIT, what is a stock, what is a bond.
It's also instructional.
I think like a lot of that stuff already exists out there. So I think what this book is like kind of the book I wanted for myself when I was 25 years old. I felt the world very unfair. Right? You know, there are so many people with like wealthy parents, and like so many people telling you what to do. Some people say, oh, you must invest. You must save money, budgeting is most important. So this book kind of like I feel addresses like how you feel in the beginning. And how we got to there in the first place.
Yeah, especially that first chapter that talks about why the world is the way that it is. And then after that we go into okay, now what can you do about it?
Exactly. Because sometimes I do feel like when you don't understand how the world got this way, you are just shaking your fist at an imaginary force, right? You have misconceptions of how we got here. You have all these like conspiracy theories in your mind, and these are fun and great to watch for like on the MRT back home. In the long run, it's not helpful to you.
After that, life still continues. You are still in this structure. So I hope we can show our proposal of how we think you should approach it. You might disagree with us, but this is what we think. So you can find it if you're in Singapore, Malaysia, you can find it in Kino and Popular, Kinokuniya and Popular. If you are in Philippines, you can find it at Fully Booked. And then if you are in Indonesia, you can find it at Peri Plus. There might be more but if you ask in the comments, maybe we can reply you and tell you where it's at.
I think
wherever you are.
Also,
Amazon also, it's on Amazon.
Amazon SG. If you are in the US or in Europe, you can find it on like Amazon.com or Amazon EU. Surprisingly, we sold like 1,000 copies in Europe and Middle East.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That's very surprising. I didn't even know like we got an audience there.
That's pretty amazing. But if you guys are any of those people who bought our book, thank you
so much. Thank you very much. I hope it was a good experience for you.
Now I can tell my mom like I'm an author because she don't know what content creator is. And that is one of the best things of
it legitimizes it, right? Even though we've been doing like digital comics for 5 years.
Because always tell my mom like, is it a real job? Then I guess like author is something
somehow this makes it real. Right?
Somehow it makes it real. So
okay, thanks for watching, and if the book don't sell, then like nobody read our digital comics anymore because they feel like we sell out or whatever, then this is our last podcast, and thank you very much for really the last one. So thank you very much for watching us all this time.
I bet we scared some people when we ended the last one, right?
Oh, like really no more already. But this is just something we say for fun. So far I haven't ended yet.
Still have.
We're very pessimistic. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next one if we don't bankrupt. Bye.